Welcome to the Dementia Caregiver Talk Show, a podcast to help you navigate the senior care maze. Learn and laugh with us as we discuss creative solutions and ideas to common and uncommon dementia care challenges and how to make sense of the senior care industry and options, even if you're not a professional. Hello and welcome to the Dementia Care Partner Talk Show. I'm here with Teepa Snow, Greg Phelps, and Joanne Westbrook, and we have a super interesting topic today, which I think you're going to get some actionable advice and tips, and it's 3 skills and 2 strengths to avoid becoming the Lone Ranger.
How could we not do that? I mean, how could we not do that?
I had to. It was perfect. I was going to go, dum-dum-dum-dum-dum-dum, the Lone Ranger. And here's the tricky thing about the Lone Ranger. It's really funny. Everybody says the Lone Ranger, but he had the horse and he had the sidekick.
Yes. Tonto.
Yeah, and Hi-Ho Silver. And Tonto and Silver, they were specific. I mean, that wasn't just like, that'd be nice. It's like, no. I mean, there was Tonto. Everybody knows Tonto. He's that trusty sidekick. So, and then we have Silver, who actually carried the load. That was like that heavy thing. So I think, what we want to stay away from is not, if you're going to do the primary lifting, being careful that you have these other 2 partners with you, so that even if, you're doing the hard work, you're not actually a Lone Ranger. I mean, so that's like, what we don't want is somebody getting to a place where they don't feel like they have any support for themselves. They don't have what they need to do this. So let's talk about what are 3 tips, what are 3 skills that you want to develop. Number 1 is finding someone who will be your support. Because if you think you can do this alone and you think you can see the other person's point of view and you think you'll be all able to do this 24/7 by the end of this disease, you're making a mistake. So you've got to build your support in when you don't need support. So you'll have somebody next to you who can sometimes take a step away and say, I'm wondering whether that's actually what happened or not. Because they have a different perspective than you do. If you're doing something, they can watch. If they're doing something, you could watch. So now you have different ways of trying things out because you have a partner. So that person you find to support you needs to be a partner for you, not somebody you boss around, but an equal. And that's a little different than the Lone Ranger. You guys aren't the same, but you can trade places if need be. You could take turns. One of you could take a break while the other one does something. So you've got to have somebody you trust, somebody that's building skills alongside you.
How early in the progression should we try and find our Tonto or our Silver?
Yeah, sort of before you think you need it. That's the tricky part. So you have to make yourself do this before you actually need it, because if you need somebody, you're less likely to go get somebody because you don't have the time or the energy or the focus to go do that because you're already in a need state. So we want to do it well before we even why don't we just have somebody in our life? Like, for instance, we talk about wanting a healthcare power of attorney for someone living with dementia. How many of us have actually designated that person who would be our decision maker should we not be able? And have we had that conversation with them about what's important to us? Because that's an ideal place to look for somebody who might end up being a good partner for you. Because you guys are talking things through, you're developing a relationship of trust. So looking in under bushels and in baskets and taking a look around when you're not desperate always works better than trying to find something when you're desperate. Like, you're late for an appointment and you can't find the car keys. Is that a good time to be looking for car keys? Because, then you're yelling, where did you put my keys? And it's like, I didn't have your keys. Well, somebody moved them and they were right. You can't think when you're desperate. And so that's why, Greg, when you say, when, it's like before you need it.
So
why don't we have somebody for ourselves?
Should we try and engage a family member to be our care provider partner, or should we think outside the box and look maybe at establishing a professional contact with somebody?
What's the advantage of professional versus somebody very similar to you?
Well, a professional, in theory, would have some training.
Oh, okay. So they might have some training. What else would be different?
Well, they wouldn't have the history, which could make it a bit of a challenge.
Okay, so there's going to be a difference in history, relationship of you and that person, but also that person and the person living with dementia, possibly. What else?
Well, professional care can be quite pricey, but sometimes it can be very worth it. You know, the good things in life you have to pay for.
Yeah, so sometimes a professional might actually charge, but you might find professionals who don't. You might find advocacy groups or groups that actually provide some service to start with anyway to see. What's different about somebody not in the system versus somebody just in the system and familiar with you and the other person, and even not an immediate family, but a distant family? What else might be different there?
Well, they might come in and be a little more objective, because I'm going to carry all of my emotions. If mom and dad weren't nice to me, I might not be nice to them.
Right. So you said history, but there's a little more to it. It's sort of like, what's my perspective? What's my point of view? And professionals frequently have a different point of view, and so they support me differently. So might I want to? Maybe. Or might one of them not work out? I guess the question for me, if you knock on the door with family and you're not getting what you need, look elsewhere. I mean, if you don't actually have a good relationship with family, why would you go there for support? I mean, you're making your job extra hard. So that's tip number one, is get support for you. The second that I have is to avoid being a lone ranger, consider asking questions rather than making statements. So get comfortable with the idea of asking for input, asking people to give you what they think, what they feel, what did they notice. Really engaging others, the person living with dementia, other people around, in asking some questions. And when they tell you something, share back what you thought you heard them say, so that you're actually working with them, not telling them what you think. And you're actually taking in data, because you're getting more data. You have more to work with. And it's not, you can choose to use or not use that, but by being willing to ask questions, it keeps you from being bossy, and it gets you out of that Lone Ranger mode. I don't know better than anybody. I'm doing my best. Well, so is everybody else. So tell me a little bit, Greg. So I'm wondering, when you're with mom, do you see a difference in her language, or is it the same from like last year?
It calls on the care partner to be a bit of a detective as well.
Yeah.
Especially a professional would be looking for obvious signs. A family member might be looking for emotional things that have changed. So it could be different perspectives.
Yeah, so it allows me, instead of being a lone ranger, I'm actually building a team. I'm actually getting people interested in and curious enough to also start paying attention and noticing things. And even if they didn't yet, now they might be prepped up. And it keeps me from then being the only one who's seeing things, only one who's picking up on things. And then everybody's against me. And it's like, oh, I'm actually asking you, I'm choosing to ask questions. I'm choosing to be curious. So that's tip number two.
One other thing, too, that I noticed going through this process is that sometimes when you bring somebody else in, and this became a real issue for me and for my niece, is that they are just immediately perk up. They're perfect. They don't need help. I don't need anybody in the house. And when you have to get assessed, then they're declined because she doesn't need any help. And then when she leaves, she becomes the other person.
Okay, so in order to not be a lone ranger, what it means is the person living with dementia, when I bring in others, and there's a real value, making myself find people to be with that individual, making myself get out of my comfort zone and bringing others in, because what that's going to allow me to do is really take a look at how my person changes depending on setting and people and situations, so that I'm not the only one who's going to be doing everything. I'm actually trying to create something that over time will support that person and support me. Because what that says is, wow, your sister is really different when she has new people.
Yeah.
Well, then if I don't want to be a Lone Ranger, I've got to keep arranging for her to have new people coming into her life, because she actually does better for short windows of time when there's new people.
Yes.
So as a Lone Ranger, I need to be always looking outward, not just asking questions, but looking around for what is different with this person, and how do I get what they need for them. So it's not me. It's not about me. It's these other things that could be helpful for their journey, which means it's not about me. It's about what does she need? Well, she needs different people, which make her look great. But then I've got to figure out how are my partner and I going to help manage this, because she is different when other people are around.
Right.
Joanne touched on a real interesting phenomenon, didn't you, Joanne? Where all of a sudden the person living with dementia, they meet somebody new, and they're chit-chatting away, and you walk away from it and you're just stunned that all of a sudden there was a different person there. How does that happen?
Yeah, and so what happens is when something unusual happens, different parts of the brain wake up. When we're with the familiar, our brains can't do that quick fire up that it can do, because what's the point of it? I mean, I know you. It's the same old, shut up. I know what I'm doing. I don't know what I'm doing. And so if we're trying to move out of that Lone Ranger thing, I've got to get that, wow, that was different. So how can I use that to help support that person? So you're not directing the care, you're providing the supportive care. So that third tip is really staying in a support mode rather than a direct mode. Mm-hmm. And that's tough. It is so hard when you just want it to be right and you want to point out all the little problems, and instead you're going, okay, so what's working? Well, what's working is she does better with a different person for at least part of the day. What part of the day? Oh, here. Okay, so that's when I want that person around. I don't want the person around here because it doesn't help her and it makes my life miserable. So recognizing that keeps us from being a Lone Ranger, but what's our habit? What are some habits we're going to have to be careful of? And there tend to be two. It's what do I like, want, and need? And I tend to take what I like, want, and need and apply it to the other person because I know best for them. And it's really hard to pull back from that. That is probably one of the hardest things to do. And the other one is to do it before I need it.
Yes.
That habit of waiting until I need. I'll just, you know what, I don't have time right now. That idea of I don't have time right now, it's like, well, do you think when dementia gets more progressed, you'll have more time if you're the only one? I'm not sure that makes sense. So those are my tips. What do you guys think?
Positive Approach to Care does offer an online care support series, and we'll give the date on this at the end of the program. But obviously, you've given 3 tips today. How many tips would there be? I mean, you're the fountain of knowledge.
I don't know. Where are you in the condition? Because that's the tricky part is we'll need new tips and new knowledge and new skill. Every time this thing shifts, we're going to need something new. And that's why we want to not do the Lone Ranger thing. And it's so important to have people notice with us, things are changing. We need something different. It's a different transition here. Yep. And that's what that support series is about, recognizing this is a long haul. How do you get what you need when you need it before you actually need it? So yeah, that's one of those things we do offer.
Yeah, and Joanne and I have been attending it, and I do have to honestly say it is wonderful. It's a great blend of getting knowledge and learning, but also connecting with other people who are going through similar things. So it's social and leaves actionable tips and itself, and it's nice because it's online. So it's, I personally think it's an absolutely wonderful resource for anybody going, for anybody on this journey.
Yeah, so what's cool about it is you can do your hour, but you don't have to go somewhere to get to it, and you don't have to go somewhere else to come back from it. So you've got that hour. It's just one rather than possibly 2 or 3 or, fitting it in. And so we have it repeatedly over a course of a year because a course after a course after a course. And we actually have some of our consultants, our certified consultants, who are taking this on and doing it in person. And we have another option, which is a modified version, where a group of people could get together at one end and we could have a skilled facilitator running it for a group of people, because we realize different people have different needs. But it's one thing to be emotionally supported. It's another to be intellectually supported and physically supported. And that's what makes a difference, we think.
I also find that a lot of the people that are involved in this don't feel alone anymore. And they feel like that partner, this new virtual partner to them, has become so emotional, and they're telling them things they're experiencing, and now it calms them down.
Yeah. So no Lone Rangers on that session.
It's a wonderful resource, and we do have resources for just about everyone. Family care partners, professionals. We have certification trainings for positive approach to care. So what are those like, Teepa?
So those are more in depth. Those are ones you're wanting to change the culture of care. You have other people in your world, in your life, that you think you could be helpful to. But rather than just tell them what to do, once again, our trainers, our certified PAC trainers, are people who learn how to use questions. So what did you think happened? Why do you think that happened? Well, what's that going to mean when you're working with so-and-so? Oh, okay, so what do you want to try this next time? They learn how to use a training cycle that's built on questions, because trainers are not the doers of care. The doers of care are the ones that are being trained. And then we have coaches, because once you get the basic knowledge, then you have to actually practice the skill till it becomes the new thing you do. And so it's that building that memory, that emotional memory, that physical memory, that speech memory pattern, so that you have new synaptic connections and you'll be able to use them when you're in a situation where you want to use them, you need to use them, but I can't think of them. That's what our coaches help people do, is develop skill sets that they can use when they need them. And then we have consultants who help figure out very challenging situations for folks with them, not for them, by pulling the team together and helping us ask questions of one another, looking at the environment and how time is being spent and what kind of activities or engagements are going on and who else is involved and what kind of health conditions and what type and form and progression of dementia. So we have those. And then most of all, I think the most important for me is, how do people fill their days? And that's why we have a certification for engagement leader, people who are guiding and directing people to engage with others. How do you build a program that works? So those are 2-day trainings, plus mentoring, plus follow-up, and you become part of the certified community, because no Lone Rangers. Come and join and be part of this bigger culture change community.
That is wonderful. And those happen throughout the year at different locations in the U.S. and Canada now, right?
And the UK.
Halifax, and then there's one in Syracuse, New York, Seattle, Salt Lake City. So, I would...
Boston.
Everybody, Boston. Check out our website at www.teepasnow.com.
Teepa, can you summarize what the 3 tips were? I've sort of made notes here. I had to get some supports before I need them. Remain curious. And then the third one, I was busy talking and probably didn't write that one down. So, that's why we record these and play them back.
Yeah. So the first one was look around, get yourself supported. The second one was to actually get curious and learn how to ask questions rather than make statements to everyone around, including the person living with dementia. So it sounds like you'd like to go outside rather than you can't go outside. We talked about that because it puts you in an adversarial, I'm the boss, kind of, I'm a Lone Ranger. And then the third is to actually build support for the other person. It may not be support for you, but what do they need to make things work well? Because if things are working well for them, guess what? They're going to be working better for you. So the third tip to not being a Lone Ranger is build a bigger support structure, not just for you, but for your person that you're trying to support. But be aware, not everybody's going to fit. So you may have to go elsewhere.
And one final tip, we have a new website. Go to the right website.
That's a good idea. Yeah, teepasnow.com is a really important thing to know about if you're still looking for things that used to be somewhere else.
And that website has a lot of great resources that are worth browsing through. So thank you so much, Teepa. I really appreciate it. Those are great actionable tips and takeaways for our audience. And I think those are going to be really helpful. Thank you, Teepa and Joanne and Greg. I really appreciate it. And we hope to welcome you back at our next episode.
Thanks, everybody. It was good talking with you.
Bye.
Bye-bye.